Thank you everybody for tuning in today. I'm Jeremy from Solo-Werks. Today we are shooting episode 1 on Project Alltrack. We are located right now at DIYorDIE, where we're going to be doing the installation on the Alltrack today. Our Solo-Werks S1 install on the Alltrack. So the coilovers are going to put that drop in, and we're going to get this running through. So today what we're going to do is we're going to measure our strut. 55 mil is what this one is. That's perfect. That's what our kit is. Now some of the variations that are out there is like the rear suspension, there's an IRS kit or a torsion beam kit. The fronts, there's a 50 mil or a 55 mil. So those are the things we want to prep for when we're doing the kit. You don't want to rip it apart and find out that you have the wrong kit. First step you want to do is unbox your kit, make sure you have all the components there. The Solo-Werks kit pretty much comes with everything that you need. Now some of the things that we would recommend replacing when you're doing this job, strut mounts and bearings, and for me I chose to opt for new rear bushings as well. So when you're at DIYorDIE, they provide all the sonic tools, so you're getting some of the best here. As you can take a look, I mean, beautiful tool chest here, ready to rock and roll. This is all at your disposal. So these are the 3 bolts holding the strut mounts and the strut tops together here. We're going to undo the 13 mil on each one of these here, and this is what's going to drop our suspension out. Alright, so we're getting ready to install the front suspension now. One thing you need to remember when you do your install is to make sure you have 1 inch of threads from the bottom here to the locking collar. Now that's just a good number for us to install, because once you install, you're going to want the suspension to settle, and then once it's settled, you can do your final adjustments. So this is just a good range. Alright, so something that we want to talk about is this T9 bow shield. Now this T9 bow shield right here is going to help protect your coilovers through all the different elements. So if you're in the tri-state area, you know, New York, New Jersey, PA, up in Canada, anything like that, you want to douse your suspension with that. Now what that's going to do, it's going to keep it from getting weathered. Make sure you get your collars and everything really good. I know a lot of guys in Canada like to raise up for the winter setup. As long as they use this come springtime, they can drop it down really easy, and they're not even going to notice that they went through winter. Now one of the things I would recommend too when you're getting your bearings is please test your bearings. So when we're putting the strut mounts in, we want to make sure that the rod stays in position. We don't want the rod spinning, so please do not use an impact. Now there's a few different ways I'm going to go through, because not everybody has the proper socket to make this happen. So one, obviously, is going to be using this wrench and an Allen on the top. Number 2, you can use a spark plug socket like this with the wrench on top and the Allen. Number 3, if you're really crafty like some of the guys around the shop, they just kind of weld something together and make it happen. Pretty cool. Alright, so right there you can hear the tab lock into place. As you can see as well, I left the spanner in the knuckle, so when the suspension drops in, it comes in very smoothly. If you don't have that, you're going to be fighting this thing trying to get it in. It's just not going to work. So now we're pretty much set up. I did disconnect the ball joint earlier to give myself more leverage to be able to get the shock out. The other thing I did do too is I disconnected the CV joint, and that just gave me a lot of play to be able to get it out. Alright, so as we're putting in the front struts, as we're getting it back up to the level, make sure that you keep these bolts loose. You can finger tighten them a little bit, but you don't want to tighten them until the car is on the ground. Make sure that the mounting points on the struts are correct and the coil is facing the inside. And we'll be good to go. Okay, as we prep for the rear shocks, same rules apply as the front. You want to make sure you use the Allen and the proper tool and leave the shaft in place. Alright, so an important piece with your suspension when you're installing it, we call this priming the shocks. You want to do this 3 to 5 times. Now the reason why we're doing this is because they're going to be stored horizontally and the fluid needs to get situated throughout the whole shop. Alright, I don't hear the oil going around anymore, so they're pretty solid now. So we'll pull them back up and we'll do the next ones. Alright, so we're going to start on the rear end right now. As you can take a look, the spring is basically attached to the IRS bar here, the rear lower control arm. And we're going to put something in place to take the tension off the arm, because this can spring, because we're going to undo this bolt and this bolt here and drop it down softly, and that will release the spring so we can swap that out. And then the next step we're going to do is go ahead and remove the top 2 bolts for the shock itself. Remember is the sway bar. That's going to leave the tension from the lower control arm, and that's the last step to make this bottom control arm loose to be able to pop the spring out. So now you can see the difference between the 2 shocks, the OEM and the aftermarket. Now my choice is going to be to remove this cap, transfer it over, and I'm also going to carry over this dust sleeve. Now there's a little twist tie or a zip tie at the top here. Go ahead and clip that off and reinstall it on the other one, and that will just help keep some of the dirt and everything and the weather off your shock. So now we're getting to putting the rear spring in. Now there's a couple ways of doing it, and it really comes down to preference. I say flip it over and put the adjuster on top. Now what this is going to do is going to give you full access to the adjuster here without having to drop the control arm like we just did to do this whole replacement. So we're getting ready to wrap up. Everything's bolted down. I'm gonna put the last wheel on. We're gonna lower it down. We're gonna see what the ride height looks at. And then also, we're gonna get our strut tops torqued down as well. All right, now that we have our install completed, let's talk about how to measure the proper ride height now. A lot of people, there's misconception where they're like fender to ground. Well, the problem is if you're running 17, 18, 19-inch wheels, different tires, whatever it might be, that's gonna be a different variable. So we're going to focus on 2 things that don't change. So we're going to look at the center of the hub here, and we're going to look at the bottom edge of the fender, and that's what your measurements are going to be. So now in the back pages of the Solo-Werks install, we have what the ranges should be for best performance. So now this is what that sheet looks like on the last page there about the recommendations. Now if we look, our max low is 12.5 and our max height is 13.6. So if I go through and I measure this right now, we're looking just over 14.5. So it's gonna probably settle down a ½ inch, but I think we're still gonna be high. So I'm gonna go ahead while I'm still at the lift right now. I'm gonna drop the collars down a little bit, take another measurement, and see if we can get closer to the specs. You want to tell us what this place is?
So, how we come across this idea?
Well, we actually, it was over beer, but ultimately some of our customers had asked us to rent out part of the shop for them. They wanted car storage and they wanted the ability to use the lifts after hours. And we sat down and we really figured out exactly how that was going to work, you know, liability-wise, and decided it was actually a lot better idea than it originally sounded. And we kind of touched on the DIY idea, and it just blossomed from there. In fact, the DIYorDIE name came up that night.
Yeah.
Literally just kind of blurted out of my mouth, and it was just, that was it.
Kind of just fed on as a good idea.
That was it.
Just decided to go run with it, see what happens. And then all of a sudden the other ideas start flowing out about what we can provide. And what we can do is two professionals in the field bringing together our equipment and providing expert services for guys that love to work on their own cars. They want to build their own hot rods, or they want to customize their car, or slam it or lower it, stance it, whatever else. And don't always have the means to, or don't know how to, or want to do it, but if they get to the rough spots, they need someone to help them out. So that's where we come in.
Yeah, I don't know what stance is.
Let's talk about maybe how you got other people involved.
Well, we knew that we needed to partner with a tool company, and we decided to start reaching out to some people. And Sonic was one of the larger tool people on Instagram, and so we reached out to their marketing department and kind of pitched them on the idea.
I had seen him at SEMA. I was blown away by the product.
I mean, we knew we needed something that was organized, something that was easy to keep organized and clean, included everything that we needed, and so they were kind of a natural choice. And luckily, you know, we reached out to them, and they were stoked on it, and they wanted to get involved. So we ended up purchasing a bunch of S9 toolboxes and these MSS workstations for ourselves, and everything is working out great so far.
We wanted to kind of build packages for guys depending on how much they're going to wrench on their own time. For the basic guy just wants to pay by the hour, to maybe a guy that wants to do an oil change on his family car or family cars once a month. So we built up a set of packages from anywhere from 1 hour as much as 16 hours, moving from 2 to 4 hour blocks, just depending on how much the guy wants to tinker and wrench on his cars.
Yeah, and the best thing is there's no membership fees. It's you're just paying for the hours that you're using, and you get a discount when you buy a block. So it works out great for customers.
It's almost like a gym membership, kind of similar philosophy. You know, you get to pay into it every month. You get to use the shop for that amount of time.
Do you want to talk about the cert that you need to get certified with?
Yeah, so everyone's got to take a safety course with us. It's about 30 minutes long. The video is pretty funny. It features Brian, and once you go through the safety course, you're pretty much ready to use basic hand tools. You know, the S9 Sonic toolboxes, the 2-post lifts, jacks, and jack stands.
So let's talk about the ability to be able to purchase parts, whether it's like a load pack or custom aftermarket, whatever. Just kind of all of it.
Well, the great thing is we already had accounts with a lot of major distributors, and so we can bring that element into the shop for the guys who want to work on our cars, and so we can get an idea of what they want to do beforehand, and get them scheduled, and then have them pre-order parts at wholesale prices, which in many cases are way better than buying off of eBay or Amazon or any of that stuff. And they're getting quality parts at that, so they're getting really reliable parts they can put on their car that they can trust.
On an almost hourly basis during the week,
Yeah.
and you know, every couple hours on Saturdays.
And even local parts stores on Sundays for the best.
Basically, we have a parts request and a reservation request button on our website that basically just sends us an email letting us know that you want to use the shop, and we'll give you an email, we'll give you a call, set up all the parts or time or whatever you need in the shop at that point.
Well, we do feature Solo-Werks products here.
Yeah.
A division of KW Shock, so they're very reliable products and a good performance product for the car. So you guys can get their lower suspension going.
Yeah.
Get some coilovers.
And I've known the Solo-Werks guys for quite some time through the show circuit and Volkswagens, because that's pretty much where they started. And they've been supportive of us since the beginning. I mean, they've always asked me, what we've needed for projects, or they've been really supportive, and they even supported our Tiguan project, with the R32 swap, and the car drives great with the coilovers. It's been driven back and forth to LA a couple times, and just really solid. Feels awesome, especially on the daily commute with it. I've been dailying that car for about 6 months or so. So, solid product. Also, Solo-Werks supported us at our grand opening, and they gave us a set of coilovers to raffle off for a customer, lucky customer. Fortunately, he had a Mark II Jetta actually, and we were able to give somebody the set of coilovers. So,
I don't know, come dirty our shop, don't dirty your floor. Get over here.
Get a few of them going.
We're open basically 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Friday through Sunday, and 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. the rest of the week. We've got open bays. Come on down. Don't get yelled at by your landlord.
Or significant other.
Yeah. There's beer next door.
You can tell little Johnny that handed the wrench over here, not over there.
I want to thank everybody for watching the video today. If you guys liked what you saw, please subscribe to Solo-Werks YouTube channel. We're going to be coming out with a few more videos. I think you guys are going to like it. Stay tuned.